I've never liked Christmas. It's not that I'm bitter or against the holiday spirit or any of that. It's just always felt like something that belonged to other people. Families with coordinated pajamas, traditions built over decades, homemade cookies and caroling. For me, it's always been quiet. Too quiet. I'd planned to spend Christmas with my sister in San Diego that year. She has kids, a husband, a golden retriever named Maple, who always tries to climb into your lap even though she weighs 70 pounds. I was looking forward to it. Real warmth, real connection, real food. But 2 days before my flight, my sister texted, "Tested positive for the flu. Kids got it too. Trip's off. I'm so sorry." That was December 18th. By the 19th, I was back in my car, camera in the passenger seat, taking the long way north through Utah. I'd done road trips before, mostly for work. I shoot national parks, odd roadside attractions, quirky diners, and forgotten places for travel magazines and blogs that pay just enough to keep me afloat. That day had started in Page, Arizona. I'd gotten some nice shots of the Glen Canyon Dam under moody clouds. The air was cold but not miserable, and I told myself I didn't need a plan, that the road would tell me where to stop. By nightfall, I hit Ogden, Utah, and the snow had started to fall heavy and wet. The kind of snow that made the pavement vanish and the world go silent. That's how I found Valley Trail Motel. The sign blinked weakly, half the letters out, the O in motel hanging by a wire. But it was open, which was more than I could say for anywhere else in town. I pulled in, tires crunching over ice, and made my way into the tiny front office. Inside, it smelled like instant coffee and old wood. A frail man with wispy gray hair and a name tag that said Cliff greeted me with a tired smile. "Rough night to be out," he said, voice scratchy. "Long drive," I replied. "Any chance you've got a room?" "Just the one left," he said. "Wind hits, don't mind that." "Room 9, all the way at the end. It's old, but warm." Creaks when the eye smiled and nodded. He handed me an actual key, metal, attached to a chunky plastic tag, and wrote my name in a physical ledger, slow and precise. Room 9 was small and old, just like he said. The bedspread was a faded maroon with little gold diamonds. A tiny microwave sat on the dresser next to a black plastic coffee maker. There was a closet in the corner, the kind with a wooden door that didn't quite sit flush with the frame. But it was warm, and after 8 hours on the road, I didn't need much more. I reheated the last of the fries I'd picked up in Page, kicked off my boots, and laid back on the bed with my camera, going through the photos I'd taken that day. The heater clicked and hummed in the background. Snow smacked gently against the window like fingers tapping from the outside. And for the first few hours, it was peaceful, until just before 1 a.m. That's when I heard it, above me. A soft thump, like something heavy landing softly. I froze. This was a one-story motel. I listened, heart rate kicking up, telling myself it was the heater or the wind. But then came another sound, slower, a dragging noise, like something being pulled, above the ceiling. And that's when I knew. This night was going to be different. The dragging sound stopped as suddenly as it started. For a few seconds, I sat there in that stale little room trying to slow my breathing. I told myself it was probably snow shifting on the roof, or maybe the motel had an attic I hadn't noticed. But it felt wrong, too slow, too deliberate, like someone didn't care if I heard them. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The cold slapped me instantly. The snow had thickened, blanketing the lot in a clean white sheet. I looked up. The roof above room 9 was flat, empty, still. No footprints, no branches, just snow. It should have calmed me, but it didn't. Back inside, I locked the door, shoved the wooden chair under the knob, and left the bathroom light on. I didn't sleep. Not really. I drifted in and out, always waking to the creak of the walls or the gusts outside. Once I swore I heard a knock, but when I looked out the window, no one was there. Morning couldn't come fast enough. I packed up my gear and headed to the office, badge in hand. Cliff was there, sipping coffee, reading a paperback. "Morning," I said, trying to sound casual. Next to me last night? Hey, just out of curiosity, was anyone in the rooms? He looked up slowly, blinking like I'd pulled him out of a dream. No, son, he said. You're the only one here this week. I paused. Really? Everyone else cleared out for the holidays. Place will be shut down by tomorrow. I nodded slowly. Huh. He gave me a strange look but didn't press. That day, I tried to keep busy. Took some shots of Ogden's frozen downtown, ate a lukewarm sandwich from a gas station, walked through a park covered in snow where no kids played. But the whole time, room 9 stayed in the back of my mind. That sound, the quiet, the closet. By the time I returned around 6 p.m., the snow had covered my tracks from the night before. But just as I approached room 9, something made me stop. There were footprints in the snow, leading up to my door. Just one set. Heavy, booted, deep, but none going away. My eyes swept the lot. Empty. The road, blanketed, no cars, no people. The motel was dead quiet. I didn't take my time unlocking the door. Once inside, I locked it fast. Chair back under the knob. Lights on. Then I noticed it. The closet door was open. Not wide. Just a few inches. Enough that I could see the darkness inside. And something else. Scratch marks. At the bottom of the frame. Like fingernails. I walked over slowly, crouched down, and pulled the door fully open. Empty. Just a wooden rod and an old wire hanger. But the floorboard at the back looked warped. I pried at it. It came up with a soft groan, revealing a small space beneath, and inside it, covered in dust, was a plastic name badge. It read, Erica H., Housekeeping. I stared at it, heartbeat hammering. That's when I realized this wasn't just an old room. Someone had been here, someone had stayed, and someone had vanished. Cliff's face went pale when I showed him the badge the next morning. He didn't even try to hide it. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Where did you find this? He asked, voice dry. In my closet, I said. Under the floorboard. He didn't answer right away. He just sat down, slowly, like he didn't trust his knees. Erica. She used to work here, he said eventually. Shift. Room 9 was hers to clean. Disappeared one night, right after her when? 17 years ago, December 2002. And you've been here that whole time? He nodded. My father ran this place. I took over after he passed. Did anyone investigate? They did. Cops came. Searched the room, the grounds. Nothing. No signs of struggle. No leads. Eventually, they just stopped looking. He looked up at me, and there was something raw in his eyes. You're the first person to mention her name in years. I didn't know what to say. I didn't tell him about the dragging, the footprints, the closet creaking open while I was out. It didn't feel useful. That afternoon, I packed everything and checked into a hotel 3 towns over. The next night I had a dream. In it, I was back in room 9. Except the closet door was wide open. And from the darkness, someone stepped out slowly. A woman, wearing a motel uniform. Her name badge said Erica, but her eyes were empty, and her mouth opened like she was about to scream. I woke up soaked in sweat. I never told anyone that part either. Weeks passed. I tried to forget it, told myself it was just an old room and a coincidence. Maybe the badge had just fallen through the boards. Maybe the sound was a possum or a pipe. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the more it lingered. I started researching. Erica H. Full name Erica Harper. She'd gone missing December 20th, 2002. No family ever claimed her. No missing person flyers online. No follow-up articles. It was like she vanished and nobody noticed. I even called the Ogden Police Department, gave them a fake name, asked about the case. The woman on the line paused. There's no open investigation under that name, she said. What about a cold case file? Sorry, sir. There's nothing in our system. I didn't sleep much after that. I haven't been back to Utah since. Haven't stayed in a roadside motel either. People think horror is blood and screams and monsters. But real horror is a closet you didn't open, a name no one remembers, footprints that lead up to your door, but never leave. Erica was forgotten, erased, hidden in the walls of a dying motel with no one left to care, except me. Sometimes I wonder if she was trying to reach out, not to scare me, but to be seen, to be found. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't left when I did. What if I had stayed one more night? I don't want to know, but I still hear the dragging, sometimes, in dreams. And I always keep the light on. The past doesn't always stay buried, and silence can be more dangerous than fear. Sometimes the only thing separating safety from horror is the choice to listen. The funeral ended early. I stood in the church parking lot, the August heat pressing down even though the sky looked ready to split open. My mom was talking to a neighbor, something about casseroles and thank you cards. I couldn't hear her. I didn't want to. The whole day had been a blur of whispered condolences and lukewarm coffee, the kind of grief you feel in your bones but can't express without sounding ungrateful. I stayed just long enough to not be rude, hugged who I had to, helped pack away some of the flower arrangements, then slipped out the back and into my car. The plan was simple: drive halfway home to Durham and crash in a cheap motel somewhere off the highway. I needed distance, not from my mother exactly, but from the sadness thick in her house, from the silence in my dad's recliner, from the smell of flowers that never felt like comfort. I should have checked the weather. By the time I reached the turnoff for Route 221, rain had swallowed the sky. Thick diagonal sheets that slapped against the windshield and turned the road into something more like a stream. My GPS lost signal not long after I passed a boarded-up gas station. My tank blinked E about 5 miles after that. That's when I saw it. Faint at first, just a flicker in the trees, but real. A neon sign. Sunset Pines Motel. Vacancy. It looked like it belonged to another decade, maybe even another world. Faded red shingles, peeling paint, and a crooked wooden sign swaying under the weight of water. 4 cars in the lot. 1 dim light in the front office. I should have kept driving. But instead I pulled in. Inside, a woman in her 50s sat behind a scuffed reception desk, typing on an old keyboard like it was a reluctant piano. Her eyeliner was smudged, and her nails were long and painted a chipped maroon. She looked at me the way tired people do, like she'd already lived through the conversation we were about to have. "Rough night," she said, not smiling. "Caught in the storm," I replied. "Just need a room for the night." She tapped a few keys, then slid a form across the counter. "Room 102, corner unit, heater works." I nodded, signed, reached for the key. As I turned to leave, she spoke again, quieter. "Make sure to close the curtains, all the way. No cracks." I glanced back, confused. "Excuse me?" "Bugs," she said flatly. "Real bad this time of year." She didn't blink. I gave a weak smile, the kind you give when you're not sure if someone's joking but you don't want to ask. Outside, the rain was heavier than before. I sprinted across the lot, key in hand, hood up, shoes soaked in seconds. Room 102 looked exactly how it smelled, old and damp. Thin floral bedspread, carpet stiff in spots, a microwave on a crooked table, and a TV with built-in buttons. But it was warm and I was soaked and grieving. I didn't need comfort. I just needed to sleep. I changed into dry clothes, zapped a gas station burrito, and climbed into bed. That's when I saw the window. The curtains were heavy, brown, and old, and one side didn't close all the way. There was a half-inch slit, right near the center. I remembered the woman's voice. No cracks. So I grabbed a hand towel and wedged it into the space, just in case. Sleep came slow. The heater buzzed like a dying bee, and every now and then I'd hear what sounded like footsteps on gravel outside. I told myself it was other guests. Even though I hadn't seen anyone, the burrito sat heavy in my stomach. I kept thinking about Dad. about the voicemail still on my phone. 2 weeks before the heart attack, his voice light and gravelly, asking if I'd seen the new Jurassic Park remake, telling me we should watch it together when I visited. I still hadn't listened to the whole thing. Around 1:30, I gave up and turned off the light. The room disappeared into that motel darkness, deep and absolute, broken only by the neon flicker bleeding through the curtains. I drifted. Sometime after 2, I woke, but not from a sound, from something else, a feeling. You know how sometimes, even in your sleep, your body just knows something's wrong? That's what this was. My eyes opened to the same blackness, but it wasn't silent anymore. There was a breath in the room. Not mine. I sat up slowly. The towel had fallen. The curtain slit was open. And through that half-inch gap, lit faintly by the flickering neon outside, I saw an eye. Wide, pale, human, watching me. I didn't move. I couldn't. My lungs locked up, my skin frozen tight across my back. For a full minute, maybe more, I stared into that eye. It blinked once, then vanished. I threw myself out of bed, heart hammering, snapped on the lamp and scrambled for my phone. No service, no Wi-Fi, just the battery indicator, blinking red. I grabbed the room phone, no dial tone, nothing. I pulled on my hoodie, bare feet slapping the cold floor, and yanked open the door, and froze. The hallway wasn't right. It took a few seconds to understand what I was seeing. The hallway was lined, wall to wall, with mirrors, not framed, not mounted, just leaned there. 10, maybe 12, tall, body-length mirrors, standing against the walls like guests waiting in silence. It hadn't been like this when I arrived. I walked slowly, steps tentative. Each reflection showed me, tired, frightened, barefoot, until the last one. That mirror didn't show just me. It showed 2 people, me, and someone standing directly behind me. Tall, no face, just blackness where the eyes and mouth should have been. I didn't turn around, I ran. The mirrors flickered past in my periphery, some warping my face, some distorting my shape. I slammed into the office door, twisted the knob, locked. The lobby was empty. The woman was gone. Only her chair remained, still turning slowly like someone had just stood up. I screamed, slammed my fists on the glass. No one came. The storm had stopped. The world outside looked untouched, just an empty lot, no cars on the road, no lights in the distance. I tried the door again. Nothing. Then I heard a sound, soft, behind me. I turned. The hallway was dark now. The mirrors were gone. I must have sat there for hours. The chair in the office didn't stop spinning for a long time. I watched it, like its motion could anchor me in reality. At some point, I stopped screaming. My voice cracked into silence. I stayed until the first light of dawn hit the horizon, until the black sky turned dark blue and the neon sign outside gave up its flicker. That's when the office door unlocked on its own. Just clicked. Like someone had unlocked it from the other side. I didn't question it. I ran outside, keys in hand, not bothering with my bag or shoes. I got in my car, engine roaring to life on the second try, and drove until I saw a gas station with a real person behind the counter. I called the police. They met me at the spot, Route 221, Appaloosa County. Only, the Sunset Pines Motel wasn't there. Just an overgrown lot, a rusted sign pole, concrete steps that led to nothing. I didn't argue, didn't explain, I just left. It took a week before I unpacked my suitcase. I'd thrown it in the trunk that night, never thinking twice. When I finally opened it, safe in my apartment with lights on, locks checked twice, I found something I didn't remember packing. Tucked between my jeans and toiletries was a Polaroid photo. Old, faded at the edges. It showed me, asleep in room 102, curled on my side, blanket around my shoulders. The window behind me was open, not just a crack, wide open. I stared at it for a long time. My hand shook. I checked the back of the photo. Blank. I burned it. Then I changed all the locks in my apartment, and I never, ever sleep with the curtains open. Some warnings sound strange until it's too late to understand them. Trust your instincts, question what feels wrong, and remember, what watches from the dark often needs only the smallest crack to get in. I wanted to fix things. Mia and I hadn't been clicking lately. You'd think after getting engaged, things would feel brighter, more certain. But lately, it was all static and misfires. A weekend away seemed like the reset button we needed, and Jared and Alana, our couple friends and constant marriage hype squad, suggested we all get out of Portland. Somewhere quiet, somewhere without push notifications and endless meetings. I found a listing for the Maple Hollow Motor Inn in Winston Creek, Montana. A little outdated, sure, but the online photos showed mountain views and a fire pit out back. Looked rustic in a charming way. And cheap. We booked 2 rooms for the weekend. 2 couples. One last breath before real life. The drive out felt normal enough. Jared made dumb jokes. Alana tried to play road trip DJ. Mia mostly watched the trees fly by. She didn't say much, but she held my hand during a stretch through Idaho, and that felt like something. By the time we got to Winston Creek, the sky was that deep orange you only get out west. But the motel, it looked nothing like the photos. The paint peeled off in sheets. The vacancy sign buzzed like a dying fly. A single soda machine blinked in the corner of the lot. Room 7's porch light flickered so erratically it made your eye twitch if you looked at it too long. Still, Mia gave me that small smile that always meant she was trying. Then Glacier Park. One night, she said. Inside the front office, a guy maybe 23 tops sat behind the desk. Messy hair, earbuds in. Didn't even pause his music when we walked in. "You guys called ahead?" he asked, chewing gum. I nodded. "Yeah, 2 rooms, Blake and Morris." He tapped a few keys. "Rooms 3 and 4, adjoining. Door in between, locked from both sides." I glanced at Mia. "That cool?" She shrugged. "It's just Jared and Alana. We trust them, right?" "Right." We dropped our bags, met outside around the fire pit with some boxed wine and those terrible folding chairs you find at every motel. The air had that sharp pine scent, but also something else, faint, sour, metallic, like wet iron. We joked. We laughed. Alana teased me about my old hiking boots. Jared claimed he could hear wolves already. For an hour or so, things felt normal. I remember Mia brushing ash off her jeans and saying, "Let's actually sleep tonight." That was the last moment I'd call peaceful. Our room was small, cleanish, mismatched furniture, humming fridge, stale-smelling pillows. I booted up my laptop to finish a client logo. Mia laid out her journal, headphones and makeup bag like it was a ritual. Then we both looked at the door, not the main one. The door between rooms, cheap wood, silver knob, small chain on our side. It looked like something you'd find in an old trailer or a summer camp cabin. I knocked lightly. Jared knocked back. We laughed. Felt silly. Even sweet. Like kids on a double date. By 11:30, the Wi-Fi died. Mia brushed her teeth. I closed my laptop. We slept. Until 2:12 a.m. I woke to a sound. Sharp. Deliberate. A tap on the connecting door. Steady. Paused. Then again. I sat up. "Mia?" She was already awake, eyes fixed on the door. "It's not them," she whispered. I waited a beat. Then knocked once. Hard. No response. Then the sound came again. Not a knock this time, but a dragging noise. Slow. Like a dull nail across wood. I stood, crossed the room, hand on the knob. "Jared?" "Dude, not funny." "Nothing." So I unlocked the chain and opened it. Room 4 was completely dark. No snoring, no giggles, no covers rustling, just dead air. "Mia," I said, "they're not here." She stepped in behind me, holding up her phone flashlight. The beds were untouched, except one had a folded towel on top, and on that towel, 2 wedding rings. Alana's had the tiny green stone she'd shown off at dinner last month. Below the rings, carved over and over into the wood of the bed frame, was one word: between. We stood frozen. I didn't want to touch anything. Mia kept whispering, "What the hell? What the hell?" like a prayer. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Called Jared's number anyway. Dead. Alana's? Same. I ran to the front office in bare feet. The lights were off. Door locked. No one at the desk. No cars in the lot except ours. I pounded on the glass. No movement. I sprinted back. Mia was standing outside room 4, staring. The connecting door had closed and locked. From the other side, I grabbed the handle, twisted. Nothing. Slammed my fist on the door. "Jared, Alana!" A voice came from behind it. Low. Close. They went through. You should too. I don't know what scared me more, that it spoke or that it sounded calm. Mia pulled me away. "We're leaving. Now." I popped the car trunk. Hit the fob. Nothing. The car was dead. She tried her phone again. Nothing. Then we looked up. The sky, still cloudless, but the stars. They looked wrong. Patterns I'd never seen. Constellations rearranged. Mia whispered, "That's not the sky." We locked ourselves in the laundry room, found a crowbar, wedged it against the door, and waited. We didn't sleep. We just sat on the linoleum floor with a dryer rattling softly behind us. It wasn't plugged in. Around 4 a.m. I heard something outside the door. A shuffle, the sound of a shoe being dragged across concrete. Then it stopped, and the quiet pressed in. By dawn, pale light broke through the laundry window. We crept out. The motel was still. The office door was unlocked. Inside, the same guy from check-in sat at the desk, headphones in, gum snapping. I marched up. Room 4, our friends, they're gone. Someone was in there. He looked at me slow. "You were the only guests last night." "No, we had 2 rooms, Jared and Alana. They were in room 4. He squinted at the screen, tapped. "Room 4's blocked off. Water damage. Hasn't been booked in 5 years. "No," I said. "That's not..." He turned the screen toward me. "Room 4, vacant, unavailable, no key issued." I stared at it. Mia gripped my arm. "Can we see it?" He looked reluctant, then grabbed a master key. The door groaned open. Inside was decay, mold along the walls, carpet stripped down to tackboard, a broken coffee pot on its side. No beds, no nightstands, just air thick with dust and the smell of something forgotten. Mia didn't move. Her eyes were wide, focused. "Wait," she said. She stepped into the bathroom. On the counter lay Alana's ring, clean, polished, placed like a gift. No dust, no time to gather any. We left without speaking. Didn't say a word the whole way back to Portland. Mia hasn't talked about it since. Neither have I. But I've had dreams of that voice. Between. Whatever was in that door between rooms, it didn't want to be alone. Some places don't exist to be found. They exist to be escaped. And not every locked door is meant to be opened. What's between us and the unknown is sometimes thinner than we think. And once crossed, not everyone returns. Long before I found myself trembling in room 11 of a roadside motel, I used to be the kind of woman who kept her life together with quiet discipline. Early morning jogs, color-coded planner, birthday reminders months in advance. My patients loved me for that consistency. My fiancé said I made life feel stable. But that version of me died the night Tyler did. My younger brother was everything I wasn't. Reckless, passionate, unfiltered. We fought more than we hugged, but he made me laugh when I forgot how. The night of the accident, he was at my apartment. We had dinner, argued about something stupid, and he tried to leave. He'd been drinking. Not wasted, but enough. I took his keys. He begged, cried, swore he was fine, said he needed air, said I was controlling him again, like always. I gave in. He died less than 20 minutes later, wrapped around a telephone pole on Route 6. He bled out before the ambulance arrived. I didn't go back to work. I couldn't. The sounds in the hospital reminded me too much of the monitor beeps from the trauma bay. I couldn't answer texts, couldn't sleep. My fiancé stayed until he couldn't anymore. So when my therapist suggested I take some time alone, get away from the noise, let yourself feel it, not just run from it, I booked a room at a motel near Chesterton, Wyoming. Tyler and I used to camp near there as kids, back when our parents were still pretending to love each other. The listing said, Pinecrest Lodge Motel, $42 a night. Basic room, quiet location, mountain air. That's all I wanted. Nothing fancy. Just silence. I checked in just after 7 p.m. The desk clerk, a middle-aged woman with a smoker's rasp and tired eyes, didn't ask questions, just handed me a brass key with a plastic tag that said 11. Corner room, she said. Get bold this time of year. Good view of the pines. Don't open your windows at night, coyotes. I nodded and signed the guest book. Mine was the only name written in that neat cursive script. Room 11 wasn't much. Beige walls, mismatched furniture. A queen bed with a flannel spread that reminded me of Tyler's old camping blanket. There was a kitchenette with a microwave that hummed when idle, and a tiny table that wobbled when I placed the urn on it. The urn was dark wood, smooth, engraved with Tyler's name and the dates. It didn't feel right to leave him behind, so I brought him with me. I placed him on the table beside my notebook and said the words I'd been choking on for 3 months. I'm sorry, Ty. I should have said no. I should have locked the door. He didn't answer. Of course he didn't. I took a sleeping pill around 10. Left the bathroom light on like a child scared of the dark. There were only 2 other cars in the lot. The air outside smelled like pine and something faintly metallic. The last thing I remember before falling asleep was the way the shadows leaned long across the wall, and how, for the first time in weeks, I didn't cry myself to sleep. That wouldn't last long. I woke up gasping. No nightmare. Just a sudden jolt, like someone had touched me. The digital clock on the nightstand glowed red. 3:16 a.m. At first I figured it was the pill wearing off. My body caught in that half-wakeful state where everything feels wrong but explainable. But then I heard something that snapped me fully alert. Whispering. Low. Fast. Too soft to make out, but definitely human. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, every hair on my arm standing on end. Hello? I said. The whispering stopped. I fumbled for the bedside lamp and turned it on. The room looked exactly the same. Bed, desk, kitchenette, shadows. But something was off. The urn was no longer on the table. It was on the floor, standing perfectly upright between the desk and the bed, centered, like it had been placed there carefully. My mouth went dry. I hadn't moved it. I hadn't gotten out of bed. I told myself maybe I'd done it in my sleep. Maybe the pill had messed with my memory. But I'd used that prescription before. It never caused anything like this. I got out of bed, picked up the urn with shaking hands and whispered again, I'm sorry, Ty. I placed him back on the desk and decided not to sleep again. I wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, sat on the bed, and stared at the wall. That's when the TV turned on by itself. Static. I grabbed the remote and pressed power. Nothing happened. Volume. Channel. Nothing. Then, the screen flickered. It wasn't a channel. It was footage. Grainy black and white footage of me, asleep in the same room under the same covers. Timestamp, March 2nd, 3:04 a.m. I stared, mouth open, unable to breathe. Then in the corner of the frame, a figure entered the room. He moved slowly, deliberately. A man, tall, face blurred. He crouched by the bed. Watched me sleep. I screamed and ripped the power cord from the wall. The TV stayed on for a moment longer, flickering, before finally going black. I backed toward the door, shaking, and yanked it open. But it wasn't the hallway I remembered. Instead of a narrow motel corridor, I saw a long, impossible stretch of rooms, all with the number 11 on the doors. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, stretching in both directions. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My phone buzzed in my hand. Unknown number. You let him drive. I dropped the phone like it burned me. The bathroom door creaked open. No footsteps. Just a slow, hollow sound like pressure being released. I turned toward it. Empty. But the mirror was fogged over. In the fog, a word was drawn with a finger. Stay. I didn't sleep. Not a single second. I sat in the corner of the room, knees pulled to my chest, holding the urn. Every creak in the walls felt like footsteps. Every gust of wind sounded like whispering. I waited for the sun to rise. When light finally leaked through the blinds, I didn't waste a minute. I grabbed my things, shoved the urn into my bag, and marched to the front desk. The clerk was sitting there reading a paperback romance, sipping from a styrofoam cup. She looked up at me like nothing was out of the ordinary. "Morning," she said. "I think someone came into my room last night," I said, voice trembling. "Morning. Or earlier, I don't know. I saw around 3 and she blinked slowly." "You sure?" "Yes. Someone was in there." The urn moved. The TV turned on by itself. I saw a video of myself sleeping. And God, someone was in the room. I didn't imagine it. She set her book down and gave me a strange look. "You're in room 11, right?" "Yes." "You checked in alone." I stared at her. "What?" She pointed at the registry. I leaned over the counter and looked. My name was the only one listed. "We blocked off the other rooms," she continued. "We're repainting. You were the only guest last night." I stepped back like she'd slapped me. "No, there were 2 other cars in the lot." She shrugged. "Those belong to the painters. They sleep in town. You were the only one here." I didn't say anything. I didn't trust my voice. I walked out of the lobby and drove straight home, shaking the whole way. I left the motel in my rear view and never looked back. But something followed me. I kept telling myself it was the grief, that I had hallucinated everything. That's what trauma does. It warps reality, plays tricks on your mind. I thought if I stayed busy, kept moving, I could outrun it. But the whispering came back, always around 3:16 a.m., sometimes faint, sometimes urgent, always close. The urn, too, would move. I'd find it on the kitchen floor or the edge of my bed, never tipped, always upright, like someone was still trying to get my attention. I stopped taking sleeping pills. I stopped sleeping at all. One night I smashed the urn. I know how that sounds, but I was desperate. I took a hammer to it, crying, apologizing. I scattered the ashes in a creek behind my building. I told Tyler goodbye. I told him to go. But the whispering didn't stop. That night I found the ashes back in the box I had packed the urn in. Dry, whole, neatly contained. My fiancé came by once after all that. He said I looked like I hadn't slept in weeks. He was right. He asked me to move in with him again to let go of the past. But how can you let go of something that won't let go of you? It's been over a year. I never returned to nursing. I moved out of the city, found a small apartment in a quiet town. No more motel trips, no more therapy. But the whispering still comes. And I've come to believe it's not Tyler haunting me. It's me. It's guilt, carved into my skin like a second shadow. I didn't kill my brother, not directly, but I opened the door. I let him drive, and part of me will always live in room 11, alone, watching myself sleep. Grief, when ignored, doesn't disappear. It transforms into guilt, into fear, into a presence we carry even when no one else sees it. Sometimes the monsters in the dark aren't strangers. They're the choices we can't undo. They say when you spend too much time on the road, something in you stays packed, always halfway between leaving and arriving. That's where I was in March 2023, drifting between the pieces of a life I no longer recognized. I'd just left Baton Rouge after 2 weeks of shooting wetlands and pretending like I still loved my job. Truth was, I hadn't picked up my camera in days. Couldn't bring myself to aim at anything. Wildlife photography used to be about chasing quiet, waiting for light. These days, everything just felt hollow. 4 years of chasing images, 2 breakups, a mother who died alone in hospice because I was chasing cranes in Nebraska, and a brother who won't return my calls because I asked about her will before the funeral ended. That was the last thread that snapped. So when I found myself driving aimlessly up US Route 90 and saw the blinking yellow sign for Golden Elm Motel, I took the exit. It wasn't pre-planned, just instinct. Cheap, remote, no questions asked, exactly what I needed. The place looked like a postcard from the 70s that never got mailed. Green trim, rusted vending machine, office window fogged from a humidifier or maybe just the breath of time itself. A dusty man in a flannel shirt, Willis, gave me a key to room 216. Second floor, corner unit. Got heat, microwave works. Water's warm enough if you let it run, he said. Cell signal's fine. Wi-Fi's spotty, but that's all I asked. The room smelled like every other motel I've crashed in. Faint lemon cleaner over something sour and forgotten. I dropped my bag, turned on the heater, and made my usual sweep. Check the locks, inspect under the bed, pull back the curtains, shine a light into the vents. I know it sounds crazy, but when you've had someone slip a duplicate key into your room in the middle of the night, like I did in Idaho 3 years back, you learn not to trust doors. Everything seemed normal except one thing. Above the dresser was a strange little wall cabinet. No handle, no keyhole, just a flat square panel screwed shut with tiny black screws. It tugged at it out of habit. It didn't budge. I figured maybe it was sealed for wiring or plumbing. Odd, but not alarming. I heated up half a sandwich from a gas station and sat on the bed, watching the shadows from the parking lot light stretch across the ceiling. Later that night, I stepped outside for a smoke. Just past me, room 218's curtain was slightly parted. I saw a man, still, backlit, facing the window, not looking at me, just standing. I waved, more out of awkwardness than friendliness. No response. The light inside that room flickered slowly, like a dying bulb trying to hold on. I watched for a few more seconds. Nothing moved. I figured maybe he was just another traveler, or maybe asleep standing up. I went back in and locked the door behind me. Something about that night already felt wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, heavy. I shot up confused. The clock read 2:15 a.m. I held my breath, listening. They weren't outside. They were above me. But the Golden Elm only had 2 floors. My skin went cold. The thuds were slow enough to make it worse, spaced apart like someone was pacing right over my bed. Then they stopped. Silence. I swung my legs off the bed, trying not to move too fast. I scanned the room. My camera bag still on the floor, phone charging, window locked. Then, knock, not at the door. From inside the room, I jumped, heart racing. The sound came again, from the cabinet above the dresser. I grabbed my flashlight, climbed on the chair, hands shaking, tapped the cabinet with the butt of the light. Silence. Then a whisper. So faint I almost missed it. He knows you're here now. I fell backward off the chair, hitting the dresser hard, scrambled to my feet and grabbed my keys. I didn't stop to pack, just sprinted out the door and down the metal stairs. I banged on the office door like a lunatic. Willis opened it in flannel pajamas and a pissed-off expression. It's 2:30 in the damn morning. There's someone in the wall. Something knocked from inside the cabinet. He squinted. What cabinet? In 216, above the dresser. You don't have a 3rd floor, right? No. I dragged him upstairs, half sure I was losing my mind. But when we opened the door to my room, the wall was flat. No cabinet, no seams, no screws, just a blank patch of beige paint. You sure you're all right, son? He asked, not mocking, just tired. I couldn't respond. My mouth had gone dry. As Willis turned to leave, something caught my eye, a glint. Inside the microwave's door frame. I leaned down, a pinhole camera. I froze. I crawled under the dresser, another lens. Under the bed, one more, 3 total. I left without another word. No bag, no phone, just my wallet and my car keys. I drove until the sun came up, fueled by adrenaline and disbelief. I checked into a Marriott in Jackson under a fake name, paid in cash, triple-checked the room, unscrewed the smoke detector, unplugged the clock radio. I didn't sleep, just sat with my back to the wall, staring at the door. I called the cops later that day, explained what I found. I even gave them the motel's address and my room number. The officer on the phone said they'd look into it, but didn't sound convinced. There's no room 218 at that property, sir. Just 201 through 217. I didn't argue. I just hung up. Later, I found out the Golden Elm was shut down 2 weeks later for violations. Mold, electrical, rodents. Nothing about surveillance. Nothing about hidden rooms or camera feeds. I'd stayed in over 200 hotels in 10 years. That was the last one I didn't vet. Now I only book rooms through trusted apps. I check every vent, every outlet. I don't stay above the first floor or below the third. I don't sleep without a wedge against the door. Some people fear monsters. Others fear the dark. Me, I fear mirrors, vents, cabinets that weren't there yesterday. After Golden Elm, I couldn't stop thinking about the figure in room 218, the way he stood so still, like he was waiting, not looking out, looking through. I searched online for hours, found message boards with others, people who'd found cameras in rentals, who said they saw things on surveillance footage that didn't make sense. Whispers, disappearing cabinets, rooms that weren't on the blueprint. I used to scoff at that kind of paranoia. Not anymore. I started carrying a signal detector, bought a mini lens scanner. My friends laughed when they saw it. You think you're in a spy movie, man? I don't answer anymore. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't hear that voice. It's been over a year. I haven't taken another photography gig since. I do remote editing now. Sell old prints to tourism boards and magazines. People say I've slowed down, like that's a good thing. But every now and then, I wake at 2:15 a.m., heart pounding. Every now and then, I see a cabinet that shouldn't be there. And always, I avoid any place with a room 216, just in case. I don't think it was just cameras. I don't think it was just some pervert watching guests. I think he was watching me, and I don't think he ever left that room. Sometimes the most dangerous places aren't haunted by ghosts, but by the people who know how to stay hidden. Trust is earned, not given, and fear, once justified, becomes instinct. If someone had told me 6 months ago that I would run from home to sleep alone in a cheap motel in East Texas, I would have laughed. But losing Mom changed everything. She was my anchor, sweet, stubborn, loving. And when she died of lung cancer, something in me unraveled. I was drowning in grief and grading essays and hospital forms and parent emails. I'd go into faculty bathrooms and cry until my mascara ran down my cheeks. My dad, estranged, alcoholic, impossible to talk to, didn't help. Saying he pushed me away as being generous, I felt trapped, guilty, exhausted. So I booked Willow Pines Motel in Redwater, Texas. It wasn't fancy, $43 a night, pet-friendly, and reviews mostly from truckers and college kids. I told no one, not my best friend Madison, not even my father, where I was going. I drove 6 hours with no destination in mind, just needing silence and space. It was nearly 6:30 in the evening when I pulled into the motel's gravel lot. Only 3 cars sat under an orange streetlight. The building looked old and slightly neglected. Inside the lobby, a dim bulb flickered over a bowl of dusty peppermints. A man with a limp and a yellow-stained shirt handed me a key on a scrap of yellow plastic. Room 9, round the back. Don't lose it, I ain't got spares. His voice was gruff, unwelcoming. I forced a polite smile and took the key. When I found room 9 by the back entrance, I paused. The door was painted a deep red, but chipped at the bottom and faded from age. The blinds inside were crooked. My heart thudded, not from fear exactly, but from something like recognition. I whispered to myself, just sleep, shower, leave. No ghosts, no creepy men. You're fine. Inside, the room smelled stale. The lamp flickered but worked. The bathroom reeked faintly of bleach and rust. I shut the blinds, set my bag on the bed, and tried to relax. I called Dad, more out of guilt than comfort, and heard him grunt, complain that I left him alone, hang up. I tossed my phone aside and felt tears I didn't know I'd been holding. Around 9:20, I sat on the bed reading a cheap paperback when I heard footsteps outside. Gravel crushed under slow steps. Then came a knock at the red door. Soft. Measured. "Claire?" A male voice said. My name. My blood froze. I hadn't told anyone I was here. I staggered back. "Who is it?" I whispered. Silence. Then, "It's me. I just want to talk." The voice was calm, low, familiar, and impossible at once. "Please, I miss you. Let me in. It's cold." I shook my head. "Who are you?" Another pause. Then, "Don't you remember me?" I opened the blinds to peer outside. No one. No footprints in the gravel. No cars leaving. Just empty, dark space. Panic shot through me. I grabbed my bag and sprinted across the lot to the lit lobby. I pounded on the desk window. "There's someone outside my room," I panted. They knocked. They said my name. The night clerk barely looked up. "Can't be," he said, eyes on his TV. "You're the only one checked in tonight. No one's around back, just the woods and the laundry shed." He handed me a new key, room 4. I didn't ask questions. I didn't breathe. I just took it. Room 4 was nearer the front, doors facing the streetlights. I tried to convince myself it felt safer, but the lump in my throat never left. I unpacked only a bit of my stuff, plugged in my phone, and curled into the stiff motel quilt. Everything tasted hollow. Cereal, water, silence. I told myself, just stay awake. Don't let yourself drift. I stared at the clock, which seemed to tick louder the longer I watched. Around 3:42, the lamp cut off. Darkness sprawled across the room like thick velvet. I blinked, flicked the switch. Nothing. Then I heard it. A knock. Tap, tap. But not at the door. It came from inside. The closet. Plastic hangers shifted. Soft wood creaked. My breath caught, a voice distant but clear. "I never left, Claire. You just stopped remembering." It wasn't the same calm voice from earlier. It sounded sad, tired, heartbreaking. I screamed, high, raw, and bolted from the bed. My feet hit the cold floor. I yanked open the door, ran barefoot across the dark lot back to the lobby. Lights were off. The manager's door locked. No answers. I turned slowly and saw the red door of room 9 wide open, its chipped paint stark in the dim amber light. My heart slammed as I realized room 9 shouldn't exist anymore. I didn't sleep, didn't stop shaking until dawn cast pale light across my trembling hands. I left without coffee, without packing more than I could carry. I drove down Highway 24 until the first town with a full-service chain hotel. I showered. I ate breakfast so fast I burned my tongue. I called Madison so she'd know I was alive. I told her I'd been frightened, that I didn't know why. But I was fine. Later that week, when I gathered enough nerve, I called the Willow Pines Motel. A polite woman answered. "Yes," she said. I was there last week," I said. "Room 9? I don't remember exactly, but I left abrupt." She interrupted me gently. "We haven't had a room 9 in that building for years, dear. That was condemned in 2017, torn down." I stared at my phone. You sure?" I whispered. She said yes. Only rooms 1 through 8 in that wing since they rebuilt front rooms. She echoed what the gravel man had said, what I'd seen. Red door, knocker, footsteps, voice. and yet they had no record of room 9 existence. My receipt said room 4. I have it. But I remember the red door and that voice and being screamed at in the closet. Months later, I still chase that memory. Sometimes I catch my reflection in a bathroom mirror and gasp. I see her, shadowed, hollow-eyed, trembling with grief. I avoid staying alone in rooms with red doors. My friends think I'm bicycle-leaning crazy, but that voice still echoes sometimes before sleep. You just stopped remembering. I went back to teaching because kids need answers, structure, normalcy. I grade piles of papers with a measured hand. Some days I feel steady. Others I feel like I'm running from something I can't outrun. I tried therapy. I tried grounding exercises. I tried maps, names, repetition. None of it helped. One night I returned to Redwater, parked near the lot at the motel entrance and just watched, curious. That back wing with the condemned rooms had been replaced with a fresh facade, new paint, new doors. No red doors, no pink chipped wood, nothing identifiable. I drove off before anyone noticed. I've never tried to interrogate the reality of that voice. If the red door room existed, if the voice was real or imagined. Maybe grief warped perception. Maybe I hallucinated. But maybe someone knew me, my name, my loneliness, and came back for something I left behind. I still get emails from the school about deadlines. I still call my dad guilt-ridden. I still hold mom's memory against me. But I walk with more caution now, around doors, shadows, quiet noises behind me at night. Eventually, I accepted that some wounds don't heal. They just change shape. I accepted that memory can be both a comfort and a weapon. I accepted I might never fully explain what happened that night. But I learned something else too. Fear is powerful, but so is self-care. I learned that running isn't always cowardice. Sometimes it's survival. I learned that guilt for leaving someone behind, even someone broken, is real, but I deserved rest even if someone else told me I didn't. So I teach now with more empathy. I reach out to students caring for family grief. I remind people that boundaries matter, that sometimes putting distance between yourself and trauma is brave, not shameful. And I live with the knowledge that maybe memory will always suspect the unexplained. But I also choose to keep going. Grief and guilt can distort reality, but running toward peace, setting boundaries, and honoring your own need for safety is not abandonment. Trust your instincts. Escape isn't betrayal. It can be the beginning of remembering who you are and what you truly need. They say truck drivers get used to being alone, that it's a lifestyle. Sleep in your cab, live on gas station burritos, and talk more to country radio than to actual people. And maybe that's true. Hell, maybe I even liked it once. But you don't realize how long the road is until the phone stops ringing. When no one's checking if you made it to Colorado. When your kid starts calling you Miles instead of Dad. I'd been running nights for years by then. Easier to stay off the grid. Easier to keep myself from thinking too hard about the things I'd screwed up. Mostly involving a bottle, a divorce, and a girl who used to leave me voicemails that made me feel like I still mattered. The last one I got from her came a week before I stopped in Crescent Valley. 4 words. No emotion. No second take. I'm not doing this. That's it. No goodbye. Just a reminder that whatever redemption arc I was praying for, it wasn't coming. That Saturday evening, August 26th, I was supposed to push through the desert to Ely. I had coffee, I had gum, I had the hum of the tires and the white lines bleeding into one another like always. But something about that town sign, Crescent Valley, elevation 4,821, hit different, like a message meant for me and no one else. Then I saw it. Driftwood Inn. A squat building with 6 rooms, a cracked ice machine, and a sign blinking vacancy like it was on its last breath. The desert wind was pushing dust through the lot in slow, tired swirls. I pulled in. The manager came out from behind the office door like she'd been listening for engines. Pale, wiry hair, a half-smoked cigarette, and skin like wax left too long in the sun. She handed me a key without saying much. "Room 14. Don't open the connecting door. It's just storage," she muttered, eyes never meeting mine. I paused. "Okay. Weird warning, but sure. No refunds after check-in." She turned and shuffled back inside like she'd used up her social quota for the week. Room 14 was on the far right, next to the office. The doorknob stuck, the AC rattled, and the carpet felt damp under my boots. Still, I'd stayed in worse. The room had a heavy chemical smell, like bleach had been fighting with something burnt and lost. I dropped my bag, kicked off my boots, and checked my messages. Nothing from my dispatcher, nothing from my daughter, nothing from anyone. The connecting door was on the left wall, old brass handle and a small sign that said, "No entry, staff only." Looked like someone had painted over the cracks a dozen times. Whatever. I'd crash for a few hours, maybe call Elena again, see if she'd pick up this time. I lay down, let the silence press in around me, and drifted into something close enough to sleep. For about 4 hours. It was the sound that woke me. At first I thought it was in my dream, a dragging noise like someone moving a heavy chair across tile. Then the creaking, rhythmic, measured, like footsteps trying not to be heard. I sat up, heart knocking against my ribs. It was pitch black except for the yellow streetlight leaking through the curtains. My breath came fast, uneven. Then the knock came. 3 slow, steady raps. Not on the front door, on the connecting door. I didn't move. Just stared at the handle, waiting, hoping I'd imagined it. Then a voice, just on the other side. A whisper so dry it sounded like wind scraping across sandpaper. "Don't forget your name." I froze. That voice wasn't angry. It wasn't even loud. But it was deliberate. And it knew me. I backed toward the bathroom, grabbed my duffel bag, and pulled out my knife. A simple folding blade I kept for work emergencies. I flicked it open and faced the door again. Now the handle was turned slightly. The door was open, maybe an inch, just enough to let the dark in. I held my breath, listened for footsteps, breathing, anything. Nothing. I waited in that room with the blade in my hand until morning came. When the light finally pushed through the curtains and I could hear birds again, I got dressed and stormed straight to the office. The manager was there, sitting behind the desk like she'd been waiting. I told her what I'd heard, about the knocking, about the voice, about the door. She didn't even blink. "Impossible," she said. I slammed the key down. "You said no one had access to that door. It was open this morning. We haven't used that storage unit in 5 years." "What about the voice?" I snapped. "What about that smell in the room?" She stared at me for a long moment, then said, "The door's sealed shut. Room 14 doesn't even have a lock on that side." She was lying. Had to be. I got in my truck and drove. Didn't care where. Just needed to get the hell out of that town. A few hours later, I stopped at a truck plaza somewhere outside Elko. Parked under a sodium light and sat there for a while, still shaken. I remembered the dash cam. I'd kept it rolling during motel stays ever since I had some tools stolen 2 years back. Figured I might as well check. I synced it to my phone and scrolled to the night before. Nothing weird at first, me coming in, tossing my bag, brushing my teeth. Then came 12:07 a.m. The screen flickered. Static warped the image for a few seconds, then cleared. And in the footage, sitting on the edge of the bed, was someone else. A figure, slouched, facing away from the camera. Shoulders narrow, hair short, no shirt, just sitting there. Inches from me. I watched myself in the video, lying in bed, unmoving. The figure never turned, just sat there silent, like it was listening to something. Then at 12:33 a.m. it twisted its head slowly toward the camera. Its face was pale, mouth curved in an unnatural smile. I nearly dropped the phone. I rewound it 4 times, zoomed in, tried to rationalize it. There was nothing rational about it. That person, that thing, was in the room with me, and I never saw it. I chucked the dash cam into a dumpster outside Amarillo later that week. Back home, I called an old friend, Jeremy. He used to be a cop before the ulcer took him out of the force. We sat on his porch, beers in hand, sun low in the sky. I told him about the driftwood, showed him the receipt. He raised his eyebrows. Driftwood Inn? Crescent Valley? You sure? Yeah. That place has been shut down 5 years. They found the manager locked in the supply room, died of heat stroke. No one ever figured out how she got stuck in there. My stomach dropped. There were 6 rooms, I said. Wrong. It ended at 12. Storage took up the rest. I pulled out the receipt. Clear as day. Room 14, August 26, 2023. Paid in cash. He stared at it for a long time, then looked at me. I don't know where the hell you stayed, Miles, but it wasn't the Driftwood Inn. I haven't driven a night route since. Got off the long hauls. Took a local delivery job. Still miles of road, but I sleep in my own bed now. Most nights anyway. But every now and then, when the dreams come back, when I hear a knock in my sleep, I wonder. I check motel rooms twice, doors, closets, behind the shower curtain. I carry a flashlight even in daylight, and when I pass through desert towns like Crescent Valley, I look for that neon sign. I never see it. But I swear sometimes in that quiet hour when the world slows down, I hear it again. Don't forget your name. And I wonder if maybe, just maybe, I didn't leave that room at all. Not all prisons have bars. Some are made of memory, guilt, and the things we choose not to face. Trust what your instincts tell you, and never ignore the door you were told not to open. There's a point in some relationships where you stop noticing how heavy the air feels. You normalize it. The constant scanning of your phone before you leave it out. The silent negotiations in your head. Can I go to the store without a text? Can I wear that dress? Can I be in the room without explaining where I've been? That was me for almost a year. It didn't start with yelling or bruises. It started small. Quiet criticism. Subtle guilt. That look he'd give me when I laughed too loud at someone else's joke. By the time he was going through my texts while I slept, I didn't even argue. I just froze. Numb. Leaving was never part of the plan. Not really. I wasn't brave. I wasn't strong. I was just tired. Bone deep, soul-dragging tired. So when I left that Monday morning in May, I didn't tell anyone. Not even my best friend. I didn't pack a suitcase. Just tossed clothes in a duffel, grabbed my antidepressants and my mom's charm bracelet from under the old cigar box where I kept my stash of emergency tips. The bracelet was the only thing she left me that still felt like her. I drove south. No map, no plan, just me and the road. My hands ached from gripping the wheel by the time I hit North Carolina. That's when I saw it. Sunline Motel. Beige stucco. Faded red numbers on the door. A vending machine with a cracked panel and sun-warped Pepsi logos. I pulled in without thinking. Maybe I thought I'd keep going the next morning. Maybe I didn't want to admit I had nowhere else to be. The guy at the front desk didn't even look up when I asked for a room. He slid the key across the counter like I was already halfway gone. Room 7, no smoking. Mirrors cracked but won't charge you for it. I paused. Mirrors what? Above the dresser. Big one. Has a crack down the middle. Long story. Anyone stay in there before me? He shrugged. Not since Thursday. Room 7 was quieter than I expected. Not cozy, but clean enough. It smelled like wood polish and something sweet. Cheap perfume, maybe. The kind of scent that lingered too long in empty spaces. It reminded me of my mom's place. Before everything fell apart. The mirror was exactly where he said it would be. Above the dresser. Big, rectangular, framed in dark plastic. And yes, there was a crack. Ran diagonally like a lightning bolt. It cut through the reflection of my face, splitting it into 2 jagged halves. I tried not to look at it. Mirrors always made me uneasy anyway. Something about them always felt too eager. like they were waiting for me to slip up. I ordered cheap takeout, left the TV on mute, and filmed a short video journal on my phone. It was something my therapist suggested when I first started meds. To talk to myself like someone who mattered. Day 1, alone, free. Nobody's breathing down my neck. I made it. I watched it back once, smiling for real for the first time in days. Then I brushed my teeth, turned the lights low, and curled up on top of the comforter with earbuds in, playing soft instrumental tracks to drown out the world. At 11:40 p.m. I looked up, and that's when I saw it. Not in the room, in the mirror. The edge of the bed, the left side, looked indented, as if someone had just gotten up. I turned around fast, heart skipping. Nothing. I looked back at the mirror. The bed was flat again. I told myself I was tired. Maybe it was the way the lighting played off the crack. Maybe the medication was adjusting again. I'd skipped a few days when I left. I took the pills, drank some water, and laid back down. Still, I didn't sleep well. At 3:27 a.m. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, one earbud missing, my phone buzzing beside me, a notification from an unknown number. You shouldn't leave doors open. My chest tightened. I sat up, eyes darting toward the door, still locked. The chain was still latched. I ran to check the windows, shut. Everything was just as I left it, except the mirror. The crack looked deeper now, wider maybe. But it wasn't just that. My reflection looked off. My posture was the same, my face, almost the same, but not quite. I lifted my hand. The reflection lifted its hand, but a beat slower. I backed away, shook my head. No, I'm not doing this. I told myself I was overtired, that I was stressed, that it was grief, medication, anything but real. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, just sat there in the motel chair, watching my reflection until dawn, waiting to see if it blinked before I did. At one point, I'm almost sure it smiled. By 8 a.m. I was back at the front desk. New guy was there. Older, quiet, looked like he belonged in a hardware store, not a motel. He looked up as I set the key down. Checking out already? Yeah, not feeling great, I said. That room's weird. He didn't laugh, just gave me a long, knowing look. You're not the first. I frowned. What do you mean? The woman before you? Room 7, left at 2 a.m. Didn't take anything with her. Purse, phone, everything was still on the nightstand. She said she saw herself moving around in the mirror, from the inside. I swallowed hard. When? Last week. Thursday night. Same night the other guy said it had last been used. I asked him if she came back. He said no, just disappeared. I asked for her name. He didn't answer. Just stared at me for a while. You sure you're not still in there? I left without saying goodbye. Got in my car, drove until I hit Charleston. I thought maybe it was over, but it wasn't. I'm in a better place now, mostly. Therapy, routine. My job at the diner keeps me grounded. I haven't spoken to my ex, haven't answered his calls, not since the last voicemail he left me. You're just like your mother. He didn't know how right he was, because my mother, God love her, used to talk to mirrors when she thought no one was watching, used to mutter things like, "That's not me," or "Don't let it out." She died before I ever understood what she meant. Now I think I do, because I see it too. In bathroom mirrors, storefront reflections, my apartment window at night. Sometimes it's subtle, a delayed blink, a tilt of the head I didn't make. Other times, it watches me, even after I walk away. I've started covering mirrors when I sleep, throwing scarves over them, avoiding eye contact. But it's hard to forget, because every now and then I catch it smiling, just a little too long. And when I do, I remember what the message said. You shouldn't leave doors open. Sometimes the hardest door to close is the one between who you are and who you're afraid of becoming. Trauma leaves cracks, and if we're not careful, Something on the other side of those cracks starts watching. Healing begins the moment you stop running from your reflection and start reclaiming it. They say an EMT learns to detach. We're conditioned to move from crash site to crash site without breaking down. But that didn't work for me after May 17th. It started as just another call. Teenage girl, serious injuries, roadwork slowed us down. No blame officially. But the moment Lily went silent in the back of the ambulance, something in me fractured. The next night I came home smelling like rubbing alcohol on skin. My hands shook for days. I kept replaying the delay, the stretch of roadwork, the dispatcher's voice. If only I'd double-checked her pulse. If only I'd done more. I took 12 weeks off duty. No plans. I dropped by a psychiatrist who said PTSD counseling might help. I nodded. But after seeing my reflection on a bad night, hollow, haunted, I left Boise before dawn the next morning. I just drove. No destination. The mountains turned to forest, then desert, then green again. I wanted quiet. Somewhere Lily wouldn't be. That Sunday afternoon, I rolled into Riggins, Idaho. Painted sky, pine scent, a dark lake shimmering on the edge of a motel parking lot. The front desk woman wore too much blush and pinched lip stain. She didn't ask for ID. Didn't seem to notice I'd been crying. One room left, number 6, end of the lot. Good view of the lake. Fine, I said. Felt more like a ghost than a man. Some guests say the lake talks at night, she said, flashing me a strange smile. They're just lonely. The building had 10 units peeling paint and flickering lights. Room 6 was quiet except for the AC clicking and the distant hum of traffic far off Shoreline Road. The sliding glass door looked worn with a canvas curtain that didn't quite meet. Outside, a crooked life ring hung over the tiny balcony, though no one launched boats here anymore. I sat on the edge of the bed, the perfume of pine drifting in. My gear was simple. EMT jacket folded in the corner, water bottle, duffel with clean clothes. I stared at the lake's surface. Part of me wanted to go out there, maybe test how cold the water felt. Another part just whispered, "You deserve this." But I didn't. At 9:12 p.m. I stepped outside. Twilight cooled everything. Crickets pattered. The surface of the lake blurred, looking more black than silver. I stared down into the reflection. Air thickened in my lungs as I remembered Lily. Her name, her laugh, how I couldn't save her. Then I heard it. A voice. Barely more than a breath. Evan. It was light. Familiar. Closer than the sound would allow if someone really stood behind me. I spun. Nothing. No shadow. Nothing but wind-drifted leaves at the edge of the water. You should have tried harder. In that crisp, sad tone, I heard resignation. No blame. Disappointment. My throat tightened. My knees buckled. I sprinted back into the room, shot the lock, and pressed my back to the cold wall. The sliding door rattled in its frame. Maybe I'd finally lost it. Maybe this wasn't supernatural. Maybe it was heartbreak and guilt twisting into something else. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't left that spot alone. I sat there until my chest unclenched a little. I stared at my hands. The trail of dark bloodstain on my EMT jacket finally felt real. I spent minutes tracing the zigzag stitching. My sister's face flitted across my mind. How I failed her too, not just Lily. At exactly 3:46 a.m. the landline rang. I don't know why I answered. I knew it wouldn't be someone real. I had turned my flashlight on, sat upright on the bed, muscles taut. The phone's blue light flickered. Hello? My voice cracked like glass. Then a whisper, cold and clinical. Why didn't you check her pulse yourself? The line went dead. Static hissed in my ear. Then silence, a splash outside, soft and sudden echoed across the water. My heart jumped to my throat. I grabbed my phone, held the bed frame with one hand. The air turned colder faster than the night before. I looked out the sliding glass door. Condensation had gathered on the inside. Tiny rivulets of water slid down in random paths. Why didn't I see it before? A single word whispered in the fog, formed letter by letter, L-I-L-Y. I ran to the glass and stared. I scraped some mist with a thumb, but the letters were set deep like etched ice. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat upright, checked the lock, and listened, waiting. Morning came slow. My chest felt heavier, the guilt sharper. I packed quickly and went to the lobby. The owner was there, arms crossed in a sweater that didn't match the sunlit morning. "Did someone prank my room last night?" I asked. She chewed gum, paused, exhaled. "You're not the first guest in room 6 to say that." I set the key down, tried not to shake. She sighed. "A man stayed here a couple years ago, lost his daughter in an accident. Thought he saw her standing by the lake at night. Said she called his name. I drew in air I didn't know I was holding." "What happened to him?" She looked off to the window. "Checked out at 5 a.m. Never came back for his stuff." I got back in my car, drove 5 hours without stopping, switched on the heat when the mountains cooled around me. Just drove until the sun pierced the horizon again. I'm back in Boise now. Therapy helps. I take small steps. I'm trying to get back to work part-time. I'm trying to breathe again. Some nights, though, at precisely 3:46 a.m., my phone lights up. No number. A voicemail plays 30 seconds of static. Then, in a whisper I know too well, "You were too late." I lay in bed, eyes closed, hear crickets beyond my window. The sound of the late-night breeze rattles the blinds like distant footsteps. I wonder if it's still Lily calling from some half-world between here and the water. I don't know if it's real. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's something else. But every time I hear that name, I shut my eyes because it's all too real. Some losses echo louder in silence than in grief. We carry guilt like a shadow, and sometimes our minds write messages we can't delete. Healing doesn't come from running. It comes from answering the call and forgiving ourselves for what we can't change.